Dave Ramsey and the Total Money Makeover. He has helped millions save money and pay off debt and change their life for the better. So the question of the day is, are all of his tips accurate? Should you be doing them as well? Are some of them a little antiquated? Well, in today's video, let's go over those and talk about which ones I think are excellent and which ones need a little bit of work. Dave Ramsey released his very, very popular book, The Total Money Makeover, in 2003, which, if you're any good at math, was a long time ago. And what's interesting about it is none of the baby steps, numbers, or advice have changed once in almost 20 years. What about inflation? What about pandemic style emergencies? What about furloughs? These things happen a lot more often now than they did 20 years ago. So it seems to reason that while the steps are good and smart, and a lot of people don't know how to do personal finances, it makes sense to tweak them just a little bit. I did the Dave Ramsey program in 2007, paid off all the debt. By 2008, saved up the emergency fund, started investing, started saving up for my kids' college, and started paying off the house aggressively, which is where I am at now. So if you want to categorize me in the baby steps, I'm on baby step 6 at the moment. Actually, I would say I'm half and half between 6 and 7 because we kind of split our investment and house payoff equally. We don't go like balls to the walls, house payoff at the expense of investing. That doesn't make sense to me, but I'm getting ahead of myself. You've taken a look at your finances and you want to go to baby step 1, which is save $1,000 in a baby emergency fund. While 71% of Americans do indeed have a savings account, 33% of all Americans have less than $1,000 in savings, with a lot of them having none at all. The Federal Reserve actually reports that 39% of Americans would not be able to cover a $400 emergency in their life without the use of credit cards. And that is something that the Baby Emergency Fund helps out a lot, because let's say you start your debt snowball and you want to pay off all of your debt, whatever it is, student loans, medical bills, credit card debt, car loans, fill in the blank with whatever it is that you have debt on. You start your payoff and then all of a sudden your water heater goes out, and that's a $400 bill to get a new water heater for your house. So what's gonna happen? Do you put it back on the credit cards, which then you've racked up more debt, which means you've actually gone backwards in your debt payoff? So the baby emergency fund definitely makes sense. However, in 2003, maybe $1,000 was okay. But in the last year, so many people lost their jobs overnight. Businesses shut down, income was cut in half. And these days, there are a lot of people where $1,000 wouldn't cover your mortgage payment or your rental payment for the month. I personally feel like it's too low for 2021. So instead, what I recommend is a 30-day baby emergency fund. So look at your bare minimum expenses that you have for the month. That's gonna be your house, your gas for your car, lights, water, food. You can probably go a month without buying clothes. You can go a month without going to the movies. You don't have to save for anything in that month. Your bare minimum bare bones budget. So if something catastrophic happens, you have a month where you're like, okay, I can think outside the box. I can do these other things, and I have enough money to get me by for 30 days. Let's move to baby step 2, which is pay off all your debt except for your house using the debt snowball. And the way that you do this is you list your bills balance-wise, smallest at the top, largest at the bottom, and you start at the top and you knock it all out. So if you have a couple of little ones, a $50, $100, knock those out first before you hit the $5,000 car balance. The point of this is to have a psychological instant reward. I actually like the debt snowball. I would say that's the best way to do it, because a lot of this stuff isn't hard to understand, it's just hard to do. And so the point of the debt snowball is to have very quick successes, so it motivates you to keep going. And I am not against that. The only time I would consider maybe looking at the interest rate is if the balances are quite similar and they're hot, like 30% versus a 10% or a 5%, I would probably look at that. Step 3 is to save up your fully funded emergency fund, and they recommend anywhere from 3 to 6 months of expenses. I have nothing wrong with that. Of course, you can pick. Do you want 3 months of expenses or 6? If you have a high stress meter when it comes to money, like you need a ton of money to feel safe and secure, go for the 6. If you're like, well, I could sell my car if I needed to, and I could go do Uber if I needed to, no big deal, then maybe go to the 3. But I will tell you, I've had a fully funded emergency fund since 2010 or maybe 09. I can't remember exactly, in there somewhere. And it is one of my favorite things. We almost have never used it for anything. It just sits there like a big safety blanket. These days it would be like a weighted blanket that just makes me feel nice and cozy. There have been times where I've taken it down closer to the 3 month in order to invest or pay off our house quicker. Right now it's hanging at about 6, mostly because the last year has been so all over the place. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen anymore. The emergency fund is not for a vacation. It's not for a car. It's not even for like I want a new couch or something like that. This is for a true emergency. Someone is sick, someone lost a job, potentially maybe like an emergency big cross-country move, your house catches on fire. Like these kinds of massive emergencies, that is what this is for. So most of the time you will really not be doing much with it. Baby step 4, invest 15% of your household income into retirement. There's a lot of what ifs in this one. I think you should do at least 15%, but there is a side of the equation, which is the income side. So when Dave and I were doing this, you're supposed to do steps 4 and 5 at the same time, which is invest 15% and save for your kids' college. We did not make enough money to do all of these things, to pay our bills, to put 15% into retirement and save up for 4 children's school funds. What does that look like in actual numbers? I am glad to tell you. I looked up the tuition rates in many of the schools in the state of Idaho. I did state schools, smaller universities, and even community colleges to kind of figure this out. What would it cost if you went bare minimum? This is tuition only. This isn't even living expenses. The dollar bills ranged from about $2,000 a semester for tuition up to $8,000. So let's say we pick Boise State University. It's $8,000 in tuition every semester. That's $16,000 a year. Times 4 years, times 4 children. You were looking at $256,000 only for tuition. Now, if that doesn't give you a little bit of a heart attack, make you panic a little bit, I don't know what would. So I'm looking at this like $200,000 bill for my 4 kids for college, and I'm thinking, wow, we need to make more money. So let's do something else. At this time, Dave and I were making less than $50,000 a year. An annual savings rate of 15% is $7,500 a year. Monthly, that's $625 a month just for retirement, and then add in the college savings that you would also need. I confess, at the beginning, we didn't even hit the 15% because we had to pay for other stuff. It has taken literally like 09 through, I think 2019 is the very first year we were able to save 15% of our income into retirement. It took so long. So I think when it comes to the retirement side and the children's college fund side, if you are not a high income family, we gotta learn to make more money so you can take care of these things, which is exactly what we did. We realized that we were not gonna be able to hit these financial goals with the current situation. So Dave decided to go back to school and get a master's degree. We moved across the country for a job opportunity and an additional certification. And then we moved across the country again for another job opportunity. And since he's been at that job, he's had 2 promotions and a couple of raises, and things are going a lot easier these days with all of this hard work that we have put into it. One more talk about investing before we move on to the next step, and that is, what do you guys like to invest in? It's a whole complicated topic, so I don't want to get into it in this video, but in the US, we have 401ks from work. There are IRAs, there's actual like stock investing. You can move into real estate, you can invest into a business. What do you like? And tell me why down below. I would love to hear it. Baby step 6 is to pay off your house early. I am paying off my house early, so I do like this step. That being said, with an interest rate these days Averages right now for a 15 to 30 year loan are from about 2 to 3% depending on some factors. What you look like as a borrower, what bank you go through, how much you're borrowing, and which loan you choose. But I bought my first house at 6.25% interest, and they thought that was low. So the fact that you can get a mortgage right now for like 2 to 3% is mind-blowing to me. I realize there is risk with owning a house, but if you have a fully funded emergency fund and you're working hard on your job and you're saving for retirement and you're only paying 2% interest when you could be investing in a stock market that even in 2020 returned 16%, there's a math issue here, which is why I personally have chosen to split the two. I am paying off my house, but I'm not paying off my house with every single dime I can find. I'm doing it slow and consistent so it can be paid off early. But I am also investing because the returns are just too good. I am not telling you what to do. If you want to take all your money and just go, full steam ahead at your house, I think that is amazing. It takes a ton of dedication to do something that doesn't have immediate rewards. That's really hard to do. So I commend you for that. But if you choose to do what I'm doing and go a little bit slower on one so you can invest more on the other side, I think that's great too. In fact, any of these things, paying off your house, investing, these are all good choices. Like, you're not doing anything wrong with any of these choices. So I don't want to demonize anything that people are choosing to do when it comes to bettering their future. And all of these do that. So I've kind of talked about baby step 7, which is after you've paid off your house, you're supposed to invest heavily, like really, really heavily, get rich, and then keep building wealth, give a bunch away, teach your kids how to do it too, and make sure your kids have a better life than you have. I don't have anything wrong with any of those things. I think what's the most fun about being financially secure is that you can help so many other people. And that should definitely be on your list of things to do. So I do agree with this one. Let's talk about 2 things that are not part of the baby steps that Dave Ramsey hates and that I disagree with. Number 1 is that Dave Ramsey hates credit cards. Yeah, I agree with what he says, that there's no emotional attachment to spending when you pull out a card and you swipe it and then you get the bill a month later and you go, oh my gosh, what did I even buy? However, if you have some discipline, I think credit cards can be a really fun tool. And by that, I mean 2 things. Number 1 is I use credit cards heavily when it comes to getting reward bonuses. It's called credit card churning, and this is how it works. You get a credit card offer. I only pick the ones with a very, very high reward payout, at least $500 of payout, like in cash, or 70,000 points in airline miles. I have done this with American Airlines and Delta and United, and usually have like a minimum spend, but I look for ones that aren't that much. So for example, I got a card for Delta. We got 75,000 bonus miles if we opened a card and spent $500 on that card in the first 3 months, which we did. We got the 75,000 points for Delta. You then spend your 75,000 points on airline tickets, which get you somewhere for free, and then cancel the card and put it away and start again with the next card. Now, I only do about 2 a year. In fact, I didn't do any at all in 2020 because where am I gonna go? In fact, I still have airline miles that I earned in 2019 that I tried to spend in 2020 that I then had to get back. And then I'm now going to try and spend again in 2021, but we'll see about that. So I like working the system. Yeah, can I pay the $1,000 in airplane tickets or the $1,500? Yeah, I guess so. But if I'm gonna be buying groceries and filling up my car with gas anyway, and I use that card and I spend $500 and they gave me 2 airline tickets to the Dominican Republic. By the way, I actually did in 2019 and I vlogged a lot of that. I'll put some of those down below if you want to go check those out. They're actually really fun videos. I like travel and I like doing it on a budget, and that is how I do it. I use credit cards to get airline mile bonuses and then travel for free. The next reason I like credit cards goes along with the second thing that Dave Ramsey hates and that I don't, and that's a credit score. Credit scores only were invented in about 1989. And basically, it's a track record of how much debt you have and how you pay it back. That's it. It doesn't take into account how long you've been employed or how often you've paid your utility bills on time. So I think the credit score number is not great. But listen, sometimes you gotta play the game. And so if they're gonna use credit scores to determine whether you qualify for a cell phone or a mortgage or a job or renting an apartment, which by the way, all those things are true, then we are going to want a high credit score, and credit cards are the way to do that. I started with my first credit card in 1999. The only thing I put on it was gas for my car. That is it. I didn't use it for anything else. What I was doing was showing a long-term credit history with bills that were paid consistently every single month for years. I like credit cards because they are an easy way to show that you can have a really good credit score. Yeah, maybe they're not the best thing. I'll agree with Dave on that one. He's saying get rid of all the credit cards, don't have a credit score, and that I disagree with. Maybe you used to be able to find mortgage companies that would do manual underwriting, and maybe like before the day and age of everyone has a cell phone, they would look at you as a customer in a different way, but not anymore, not in 2021. Overall, I think he's got a pretty good program. And if you're doing nothing at all, his program is better than doing nothing at all, basically. But some of them need a few tweaks. And I think if you take those and apply those into your life while you try and take control of your finances, you can go a really, really long way. Let me know down below if you are a Dave Ramsey fan or not. Do you like the program? Do you think it needs to be changed? I'd love to know. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And thanks for joining me today. Bye-bye.